Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you are on the lifeboat. And you know what? I don't think a whole lot of notifications went on this one, people. So we're gonna have some fun. But this one's this is one of those things that gets you wondering, right? It gets you wondering if you start doing that. Don't look over here, right? Don't look over here. Don't look over here, right? Every single time you feel like they're pulling your attention away from something, especially vis-a-vis Epstein, right? This list that they dumped out, we're making a big, huge deal of this list of people. It has dominated the news cycle, to be sure. And we really didn't get a whole lot of anything out of any of that, right? And one of the reasons is that with this guy wasn't stupid, right? Or the people that he worked for, right, were not stupid. This setup was actually way more well thought out than you would think. You know, it wasn't a situation where you walked in the door and there were wall to wall 13 and 14-year-old people. That is not what happened. What happened instead is this guy had call girls of legal age all over the place as entertainment. And in among them were girls who were not of the proper age. And I think that all of this was engineered, right, to get dirt on people. I think this was what this is my humble opinion, but I believe that this is exactly what this was. This was just a way to get a whole lot of dirt on a whole lot of people. Now, if that's the case, right? If this is, yeah, it is bigger than him for sure, right? The amount of power that it takes to pull this off. Now, in order to make this happen, you need to have people think you're not the biggest dirtbag in the world. And they also have to believe that you got some juice, you got some power, right? You needed all kinds of money. You had to be an instant billionaire. You had to go instantly from no one knows who you are to instant billionaire. And that seems to have happened right around the time he took that trip to Africa with Bill Clinton. This was kind of what put him on the map. And it was always hey, I happen to be going that way. You need a ride? This was a recurring theme with a bunch of people. And all of those names make everybody else go, oh, so DiCaprio flew out there, right? This person flew out there. Well, very often they weren't flying out anywhere, right? When you really look at the flight logs, they just caught rides places. And he had a little Air Force full of jets to give people rides places, donated to all of the right charities so that he would be at all of the right functions. And until this bust went down, I think that there were people who certainly knew what was going on because they were that kind of people. I'm sorry, but that's the case. There were people that we know that knew exactly what was going on there and they were into it, right? There were definitely dirtbags in this, but I think a lot of names are sprinkled on in there. But you know what we're not talking about? We're not talking about what happened to this dude, because the people that were running him, if my opinion is correct, and that this guy was it's a terrible word to use, man, but this guy was a pimp of sorts, right? For people who can't be willing, right? This guy was just the ultimate dirtbag. He really was. But when this guy unalived himself, right? If we're to believe that this guy unalived himself, the number of things that we have to believe in order to believe that he took himself out is astounding. I mean, it takes so many leaps of faith to believe that this is what happened. But have you heard his brother, Mark Epstein, when he found out that his brother had passed away, did something that really kind of seemed to have it on the ball, so to speak. You have the ability to say, I would like there to be a doctor of my choosing at the autopsy. I wasn't aware of this, but it is something that you can do. And he did that. So when the autopsy was done on Jeffrey Epstein, Dr. Michael Bodden was there, right? This is not a guy that no one's heard of, right? This is one of the most famous pathologists on planet Earth. This is a guy that is pretty well known for being a pretty good pathologist. And he was there when this autopsy was done. And you know what he said? He said on either side of the thyroid cartilage, on both sides of the thyroid cartilage, there were what he called double breaks. He said in 50 years of doing this, he has never seen this happen from a suicide. It just doesn't happen because it requires a different kind of mechanism in order to do that. And it is 100 out of 100 times, according to this man, not me, homicide. Now that, when they got to the end of that autopsy, they didn't say, all right, suicide, high five, and walk out the room. That's not what happened. What they said was, we can't say that this guy killed himself. That's what they said. We can't say this guy did this. And they wrote inconclusive, right? It's going to require more evidence. There's no way to say that this guy unalived himself based on the evidence that we have here. That's what they said. And then this woman by the name of Barbara Sampson, she said, well, there's some new evidence that has come in that absolutely makes it obvious that that this was a suicide. Has not mentioned to anyone what that evidence is. Keep in mind, this is years ago. But let me tell you something else that has come out that really stinks from a convict point of view. If you've never heard me talk about this case before, I talk about it from a guy that's been in prison, federal prison. And I know exactly what the protocols would have been for that dude if he had been on either the watch, right, the unaliving himself watch, or if he had just been on observation. But I know what the protocols are, and they're nothing that they described, right? He wouldn't have, nothing that they described. Everything there is BS. The cameras weren't working, right? The guards were asleep. Think of all of the things that we have to believe, all of these things. We also have to believe that then when they decided that they were going to prosecute Michael Thomas and Bova Noel, when the federal indictment came down, you would think, okay, here we go. A couple of people are going to do some time for this. But see, they cut a deal. It's already over. It's done. What deal did they cut? What the hell could they have given up? What did they give up that we don't know about? Because they cut a deal and the charges were dropped. They had to do a little bit of probation for letting the most famous inmate in America get whacked or unalive himself. But they were 4 feet away, and their job was to make sure that neither of those things could happen. Right? They only had one job. But we're going to believe that both of them fell asleep, right, at the same time while the cameras were out. And if you had any idea how many cameras are in a damn unit, it would blow your mind, right? We're not talking about a couple. It is redundancy at levels you wouldn't believe, right? It's not like each camera only films one part of the unit. That's not how it happens. There are cameras in the corners, right? All 4 of them shooting down into the middle, and they're side cameras. There is so much redundancy where one camera is looking. All of them were out. Every single camera in that entire place was out. And do you know that they don't have any of the film from when they brought him down to the infirmary either? Ain't that something? Isn't that something? Do you know why this was ruled that he unalived himself? You're going to love this. Because Bill Barr said, I looked at the footage. There is no footage. The hell are they talking about? They told us there was no footage, right? But he looked at footage that he said shows that nobody went in and out of the unit. Couldn't see what was happening inside. But because nobody went in or out of the unit, this guy had to have unalived himself. Can you walk me through the mental gymnastics that you got to do to make that equal? This dude had to have done it himself. Where does that come? Help me, really help me. Maybe I'm not all of that. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. But to me, you know what that proves? Whoever whacked him was already on the tier. And let me tell you something from somebody that's been in federal prison. They are not at all afraid to put somebody in there dressed as an inmate who isn't an inmate. There's not one dude who's been incarcerated that can't tell you 3 stories of exactly this, where a guy gets a cellmate and the 2 of them are talking, and you know, the plant, the guy that just got in there, he's telling him all kinds of dirt about the things he's done. Man, I got 3 bodies they've never found, blah, blah, blah. Okay. 3 or 4 weeks of this. The guy starts drinking with him, they're partying, they're doing all of this stuff, right? And then, you know, he opens up, says, yeah, I got a body myself, right? And then all of a sudden, the guy puts a kite in, slides it under the door, says, listen, man, I need to talk to somebody in medical. They come and get him. You never see him again. Dude disappears about 2 weeks later for prosecution, and it happens all the time. Would not be any more difficult to put somebody on that tier that you wanted to make sure this guy didn't see the following morning. And since we have no idea what was taking place in there, how about a list of the inmates that were on that tier that night? Right? So depending if this is a really sensitive needs, this is an unbelievable kind of protective custody unit, whatever. Let's say that it was really small, 15 people, right? Maybe 20. All right, let's talk to some of them, right? Did any of them get interviewed? Where's all the papers on that? Because in that 112-page crock of crap that the Bureau of Prisons released, that came up with some real winners, right? Long-standing operational challenges. This was blamed on long-standing operational challenges. You got any idea what that means? Anybody? That word salad, what does that mean? What does that mean? I honestly don't get it, right? Long-standing operational challenges and numerous serious failures. Well, that's a lock, right? If you believe their story, there are so many failures, right? There are so many failures along the way. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Why was he in a cell that had bunk beds in it? That's not how it happens. Shannon, I would say that Maxwell certainly benefited from the fact that there's been one really high profile death in this already, right? They also probably, use your imagination. I would imagine that Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't want to talk much. I would imagine that Ghislaine Maxwell is terrified, right? I would imagine that she knows who removed him from planet Earth. And I would imagine that whatever conversations are happening, she's making it real obvious that you ain't got nothing to worry about, man. If I was going to talk, I'd have been talking, right? But these are questions that can't be answered. But the fact that she's alive doesn't do anything to diminish some really odd stuff by a medical examiner who has his stuff together, right? It's pretty famous. But I'll go with one right here. I was a EMT, which is not much medical training whatsoever. But it's some medical training. And if you ever work a case where somebody is no longer alive when you get there, and let's say they got 2 or 3 hours before you arrive, or 5 or 6 hours, we don't know how long Epstien was in that cell before they found them. They know for a dead solid fact that it was 2 hours, but they're struggling to get an exact. But anyway, let's just say 2 is what we're working with, right? 2 hours. When your body stops pumping blood through the veins, it all pools to the lowest part of the body. And if you're laying flat on your back, you'll get lines. If you look from the side, they're called lines of lividity, right? Lividity lines. And it's just blood pooling in the body. Now, according to them, according to the report, his butt was off the ground, his feet were touching the ground, and he was hanging from a noose from the top rack. Okay, that's the only thing they gave us to go on. Right? That's how they described it. So knowing the racks, knowing how the bunks are put together, there's only a couple of ways you could do this. So if he were to have done this and hung himself, his feet should have a grip of blood that pooled into him. His legs should show massive amounts of lividity, right? But there isn't any. According to the autopsy, there was no signs of lividity in any way. This cat didn't go out the way they said he did. Just quite simply put, he did not go out the way they said he did. Now, Dr. Bodden also said, when you write down inconclusive, when you write down, we can't tell you what if this is a suicide or a homicide, we can't tell you. If that's what you write down on that, it can take a month, 2 months, 6 months. It doesn't take 40 hours for them to go, oh, sorry. Lividity is the pooling of blood in the body. I promise you that's what lividity is. It is where when you stop pumping blood, the blood begins to pool and shows you different. You will see splotchiness. Depending on how long it is, the stuff will turn purple and start to rot, and it's fairly disgusting. If you've ever seen it, lividity is something that you're not soon going to forget. But if you're hanging, tell you something else that's odd. According to them, the ligature mark went straight across the neck to the back. If you hang yourself, that's not how you're going to get a ligature mark. Just think about this logically, right? If you hang yourself and your feet are off the ground, right, and your butt's off the ground and your feet are dragging, that is going to, when all is said and done, it's going to ride right up underneath your chin, right? And I have sadly seen this. Right? Same thing that the forensic, they were in agreement. The people that did the autopsy were in agreement. Yeah, this is not somebody that unalived themselves. Couldn't have happened that way with a noose. Couldn't have happened. And then all of a sudden, whatever the hell they found, let's say it was a note that said, yeah, I'm taking myself out. Okay, well, how do you do that, right? The mechanism of death cannot cause the injury. And they were cool on this. This was something that everybody was in agreement on until they weren't. Right? This doesn't smell right. This doesn't smell right. The narcissist thing too is we throw around the word narcissist. Yes, his thyroid bone was broken in multiple places. It was really, they just said this is not something that could have possibly happened with a noose. And look, where's your axe to grind? If you're Dr. Bodden, what the hell difference does it make to you if you go in and say he unalived himself or he didn't? You're just as relevant, right? The story, you got paid one way or the other. I don't see, and again, why did they all agree in the beginning? This stinks, and it's not being talked about. Why? Because we got a list of all these cool names, right? Let's talk about whether or not Dr. Stephen Hawkins had women crawling all over his body. Can we talk about that? Because that'll distract the hell out of us. Apparently, to look like he was not the dirtbag that he was, he would fund these scientific conferences on the island that he had down in the Caribbean. And he would bring in all of these really famous scientists, which is why that dude was on the island. But do you see how all of this is really, it gets very, very, it gets clouded really, really injured. I mean, really, really quickly. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, right? It sounds a lot more like somebody, right? Picture the scene in the Godfather, right? When they go up behind him in the first linen, right? And they get you with the garrote. It's whatever did this. Let's just go from what I can absolutely tell you, right? This is not speculation. This is me. I promise you, if he was under observation, there would not be a stitch of clothing in that room that he was in. You don't get clothing. You don't get sheets. You don't get a pillow. You don't get any of these things. He was in a normal cell. They said that he was supposed to have a cellmate that was going to be in with him. Odd. That cellmate was transferred out that day, and that cellmate, by the way, is dead. He died in 2020. Here's another thing that's really interesting from a convict's standpoint. He died on the 10th of August. On the 12th of August, he had a parole hearing. This man had about $1 billion in assets that he could put up. And they were going back to court to structure a deal where he was going to have to pay for security. He was going to have to do all of these things in order to make this happen. But he had a shot. And let me tell you something, as a convict, that dude isn't killing himself on the 10th if he's got a shot of walking out on the 12th. He'll wait till the 12th. Okay? If he gets shot down or the judge says, there's no way in hell we're giving you bail. Okay, then you come back and you give this another thought. But the idea that you might just be able to walk out the damn door in 48 hours was probably enough to keep this dude going for 2 days. As a convict, that's my personal opinion, right? That would absolutely have kept me in the game. I remember I never got bail once in the feds. They never once gave me bail. But I can't begin to tell you how much hope I had every time we had a bail hearing. For real, every time. I just got shot down and again and again and again. But each time you hold your breath, you make plans with your friends and your girl. You call her on the phone and say, this is going to be the one. I'm out Friday. I just don't see a guy hanging himself on the 10th when he could feasibly walk out on the 12th. And is this the guy who has watched the legal system crap all over him his entire life? This is a dude who has watched the legal system bend over backwards to give him a big. This dude has never been slapped around by the, he's got no reason whatsoever to fear that they're not going to let him out on the 12th. Right? Why would he? He was, after being convicted of being a low-life P, right? They gave him nights. Why would he not? I mean, I promise you he had hope for the 12th. This doesn't make any sense. That just doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It really doesn't. That doesn't pass the smell test to me, right? Just from a convict standpoint. Also, nothing that they say is the way it happens is the way it happens. The cell door that we saw the picture of it the last time that we did this, right? You saw the metal cell door. You saw the inside of the cell with the bunk beds. None of that's there, right? If you're in an observation, the door is made of glass. Jenny, here's my guess, Jenny. And this is just a guess, right? Whoever took this dude out does not want the world to know that they took him out. Right? They really do not want this. If they can break the chain between this guy and the person above them, I think that's probably what they'd like to do. This guy did not just find $1 billion, right? With all of the people, I'm a convict who comes on YouTube and gives you my opinion on things, right? Talks about sobriety. But there are forensic accountants out there trying to figure out where this guy's cash came from. And they can't figure it out. And they're also having a mother of a time figuring out where most of it went. This just does not sound like one dude who was doing. So they're not going to say, hey, what happened? Well, somebody came in and whacked them, because that's going to stink a government in a really big way. All right. Who else could get into a federal prison, make sure that nothing is working inside, right? Think of all of the things that you had to do to make this happen. The 2 guards either bought off or what? Drugged, something. But you had to buy off those 2 guards and trust that they're not going to say anything, which is really a struggle, because 2 people can keep a secret, right? If one of them's dead. So this is one of those things that, man, you saw Donna Adelson show up in that paper dress. Yeah, not particularly fun to wear. It's especially not particularly fun to wear if you're a guy. You know, there is a stigma attached to it. You know, for the guys that, you know, if you put on that smock, that you basically tapped out in life and said that you can't handle it, and you catch a lot of crap for it. And I think I spent more time in one than anybody alive. But yeah, but because I did over a month on that type of watch, and then went from there to observation. So I went from the watch to observation. Both of those, he was not on. He wasn't. He was in a regular unit with a regular bunk bed and all of the clothing that he could possibly have in there. They said he had 2 or 3 nooses already made. Odd. I don't know why you would need 2 or 3 of them, but apparently he had made 2 or 3 of them. When I tell you that there's just things from a convict standpoint that do not make any sense. This is not their protocols for the watch. It is not their protocols for, for someone who is on the observation, or somebody that's on the watch. This isn't how it goes down. Not even remotely close to this is how this goes down. And yeah, they moved the body. Why did you move the body? If he had been dead for hours, you take pictures of him in, what do they call it? In situ, whatever. You're going to take pictures of him exactly where he died, because this is really going to help with everything else. Okay? Why do I believe he's dead? Because he, in my humble opinion, was not the man. He was just an employee. And I think that employee had an awful lot of dirt on an awful lot of people. And what if the one hand and the other hand don't know what's going on. Assume for a second that this is what happened. When he got arrested on the first deal, where he had got to do nights and weekends, right? For what he did, that reprehensible crime, right? You know what else they got him in that deal? Because if that's not sweet enough, they also got him a deal where they couldn't prosecute him again for anything going back X number of years. So this is not a guy that was worrying about getting arrested. As far as he was concerned, what does he got to worry about? Now, oddly enough, what he had to worry about was from that time period. So in the mind of this dude, he probably believed he had a pretty decent shot of taking this thing all the way to the top court and getting it thrown out. As messed up as it is, if you tell a guy that you're not going to prosecute him, right? Now, what they did was what they always do, right? Whatever the hell they want. That's what the feds do. Whatever they want. Brandon, well done, my brother. Well done. This is a guy that, in my opinion, they needed a face. They needed a billionaire. They needed somebody that was a handsome dude that, was charming and could make this happen. This, in my opinion, was a operation to get dirt on people so that you could manipulate markets, right? Determine how politicians will vote, judges will vote. I mean, if you got a picture of somebody with a child, I would imagine you could get him to do just about anything. Yeah, I mean, but I'll tell you what. There are a lot of people that believe that that he's alive. I just don't see, if we believe that, then we got to believe that Bill Barr watched him walk out. To get out of a federal prison, you're going to have to get popped through about 11 or 12 doors, every one of those on camera. It's not impossible by any stretch, but it's going to be a struggle to get somebody through that way. No one knows who's compromised by anybody. What we know is that they've muddied the waters as much as they possibly can, because in those documents, let's say I said this. What if I said, Sharp Canines, do you know who this person is? And they go, no, I've never heard of him. Your name is in the record and it's redacted. You're now part of that court record, because what we're looking at is everybody that they deposed and questioned. So all of these people that were on the island, they asked them a list of all the people they wanted to know, big namers. And every time they asked another one, that name gets put into it again and redacted again. So when they say so-and-so's name appeared in it 50 times, well, that means because they asked a hell of a lot of questions about him. You feel me? Because that's what's happening. If you understand how all of these documents got put together, this was settled out of court. So what's being released is, all of the interviews, all of these different things, and they're redacted to beat hell. But all you had to do was ask somebody, do you know Tommy Scoville? Now my name's in it, right? That's just, honestly. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not a dirtbag. I could have gone down there and been the world's biggest scumbag, but we can't. To separate the wheat from the chaff is almost impossible with what they've given us. There are some names that are real obvious because the people who are being questioned said stuff like, yeah, I was with that person. Right? No gray area there. But all of the people that the world was really hoping were going to have that kind of smoking gun on, no, the really famous people that, that everybody wants to see go down in a fiery crash, they're not in this that way. They're just not. This was a case of a lot of lawyers wanting to know if these big namers, because that would be great. Wouldn't it make your career? Of course, you're going to ask about every one of those huge names. Yeah, Elvis, Jimmy Hoffa, and Jeffrey hanging out. Although Hoffa, we pretty much know. I think that one's beyond it's still good for a laugh, but I think we're pretty sure where Hoffa got whacked by who and when. That one has pretty much been debunked. Science. If I do a math equation, the numbers are all wrong. The answer can't be right. Okay. In this particular situation, the fact that this man became a billionaire overnight leads me to believe that he was not alone in this, right? That there are people involved who are powerful enough to fix a court case for somebody that was charged and convicted as a pederast so that they could just do weekends and nights. That's some juice, right? That's some juice. And the dude that prosecuted them got a cabinet position in the next cabinet. Coincidence? I don't know, man. I don't know, right? We don't. But too much of this stinks. Too much of this stinks. And when a famous, right, forensic pathologist says 50 years of doing this, I've never seen this happen unless it was a homicide. That's something, right? Is that not something? To me, that's something. Here's something else. Ran into trouble on that unit, right? Ran into trouble on that unit in the Metro Correction Center in New York. Trust me when I tell you, this is a very, very serious facility as far as need goes. There are not that many federal holding facilities around the New York area to where you could shut one down because of what happened in one cell. But there's nobody in that building anymore. You understand? Go home. You don't work here anymore. Does that pass the smell test with you? Honest to God. It costs $110 million to rebuild, to build a federal prison, right? And that's on the front. You're going to be paying that off until it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. But the point is, they shut this down because Epstein was able to unalive himself in one cell. The entire place is shut down. You know how many times I've watched people get unalived or unalive themselves? Right? They put somebody in the cell the following day. It's just the way it is. I mean, it's cold-hearted, but it is exactly how it is. They give you the option. They'll say, hey, somebody died in there last night. Are you willing to live here? And very often people will say, no, I'm not doing that unless there's a TV shot, unless they can look directly from their bed and see the television, in which case they don't care what happened the day before. Just keeping it real. There have been people who have been going to this island, and all of that stinks as well. All of that stinks as well. The evidence, the 150 boxes and, of all of the evidence that they took off of that island, they took it off the island after it disappeared first. How's that? They left to go get a warrant for the stuff and apparently didn't leave an officer there to watch, right? This is what we're supposed to believe. Didn't leave an officer there to watch. And the guy that ran the entire facility boxed it all up and hauled it off. Now, when they went and called him on it, he went, oh, I was trying to protect that. I'll take you to it. And he happily handed over everything. Well, how the hell would they know if he happily handed over everything, right? If there was never an inventory done, how would you know what everything is? In legal ease, this is called chain of custody, right? And a break like that in chain of custody is a bad thing. We don't know if they sterilized that. We don't know if they took people out of those to protect. All of that because they're going to use it the exact same way as he was. Maybe the people that are looking through that weren't part of it. I highly doubt that, but maybe they weren't. Now they're sitting on a whole hell of a lot of stuff they can do the same thing with, because that's the sick world we live in. I'm sorry. I think if either side were to find it, I mean, yeah, you could get a lot of press by coming out and making the other side look awful, or you could just make them do what you want until that entire pack is dead. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a lot of souls left up on Capitol Hill. I don't. On either side of the aisle. You can call me a cynic, but I think I got plenty of reason, right? I mean, just if you're watching what's going on, does this instill a whole lot of faith? Because it doesn't with me. They create an incredible lifestyle, right? That they can hook up all these stars with. And when you allow stars to fly on your stuff and, on your planes, now one person hears that someone else already went. And then somebody else hears that, right? It's yeah, it's just it's ugly all the way around. None of this smells right. And if it doesn't pass the smell test, it's usually a pretty good idea, right? No, and you're right, Shambot. No question. No question. They all go to the same dinners, same parties, same handshakes. And you know what, man? If you got dough, you usually bankroll both sides just in case. Because honestly, no matter what people say, you can only donate up to a certain amount to a candidate. It's like 3 or 4 grand, right? You could donate millions to a political action, committee, whatever. But for a candidate, so yeah, they throw a check to both sides. What do you got to lose? Bill Barr. Well, and Bill Barr is the one that said, yeah, you know what? We can call this thing a suicide because nobody entered there who could have done it. Genius, right? I mean, doesn't that? Genius. However, we all know that there is a Bill Barr tie-in to Epstien already, which makes it just that much more bizarre. The last job that we can trace to this dude was when he was a substitute teacher hired by who? Bill Barr's dad. God only knows what I think it means is that we stumbled onto one of the most disgusting things on earth, and I don't know how anybody doesn't kind of see it, right? So you saw the picture of Clinton that was hanging inside that dude's flat, right? Sorry for the verbiage, but there's no other way to say this. That painting to me, knowing that Clinton's going to be in that house, and so are a lot of people that know him, it was like saying, this dude's my you-know-what, right? President of the United States, nothing. He's my bitch. I got pictures on him. I got video on him, whatever. This is my guy. He does what I want him to do. That's what that painting looked like to me. Maybe you think I'm nuts, and that wasn't the only one, right? Had another weird one of a Republican president, right? Also hanging in the house. Bush. Odd. Really odd. But really disgusting, right? Just disgusting. And the sad thing is, who the hell is looking into it, right? Because I promise you, I mean, hear any of the big news channels interviewing Biden and saying, hey, what's going on? Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat and tip the boat over. That one, Sugar Plum. The painting is so weird, bizarre, and gross. I'm with you 100%. It's one of the most disturbing paintings ever, right? Yeah, I did not know Scott Peterson. And I don't really like copping to knowing Drew Peterson. You know what I mean? I did, but I assure you we weren't homies. This wouldn't surprise me at all. The Sam Bankman-Fried. I know that dude threw around a whole lot of cash to all parties. Like he definitely was. He was spreading it around to be sure, which is really funny because there wasn't. That was really just an absolute awful Ponzi scheme. I mean, from the word go. Yeah, Drew Peterson was the Chicago cop. Shannon, correct. Breaking news about Alec Baldwin. What do we got? Are they prosecuting? What happened with Alec Baldwin? Spanx Calhoun. What do we got? Alec Baldwin. Breaking news. I hadn't heard. From my understanding, he hadn't even been charged. Maybe they're charging him. Grand jury indicts Alec Baldwin in fatal shooting of cinematographer on movie set in New Mexico. You know what, people? I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm sorry, whether you're a fan or not. That's again, if you've got any gun fans, right? When you hear him describe what happened with that gun, I think involuntary manslaughter is probably the correct charge. I think that's probably the correct charge. I don't think he wanted to. I don't think he wanted to do this. It certainly wasn't premeditated, and it certainly wasn't two. You know who would really be able to answer this beautifully? Would be our lawyer friend Zach. Would be able to answer this. But it seems to me that that's probably the right thing to charge him with. You know, he was indicted. I'll be damned. They destroyed the gun. Wow. Pause. Okay. Question, different topic. Is the Innocence Project really considering representing Drew Peterson? Is it true? I hope not. Your thoughts. It is not true. The Innocence Project is really considering representing the other Peterson, Scott Peterson, California. Don't shoot the messenger because I'm just telling you what's going on. But there is a bunch of evidence, or there is a bunch of things that you would say maybe paints a reasonable doubt. Now, that said, the interview that he did, right? Remember that interview? Okay. The interview he did on TV, he was benzoed out. I mean, benzoed out. If I had to guess, I would say Xanax, but it could have been Klonopin, but he was, I promise you, benzoed out. Go watch it. And you know what? If you're innocent, I don't know that you're eating a bunch of benzos, right, to go do an interview. Maybe I'm wrong. But that really, and that whole interview is disturbing. He was already talking about her in the past tense. I think the guy's a dirtbag. I think the guy's guilty. But if there is this much doubt, then you've got to give him another trial. Can't make that mistake, right? If there is a shadow of a doubt, right, then take him back to court and they will find him guilty again. And then that will be the end of it, right? That will be the end of it. I'm telling you what, if it was the feds, you get one shot at the feds. You get one shot. You can't even reopen one. I promise you, it's bizarre, but you get one shot at modifying a sentence. There is not another. Ugly. Where is it going to go from here? Now, I don't know if you're talking about what really needs to happen is we got to have an awful lot of people. Is there a charge called the idiot charge? There should be. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that gave the same story that cat gave, I wouldn't care who the actor is, right? That story. I'm not a gun person. I'm really not. However, I'm very intimately aware of how they work. And when you listen to the things that this dude said, right, they do not make any sense. For him to say that his finger was nowhere near that trigger, right? No. Hello, Mo. Good to see you. I hope you are. I hope you are braving the snow. You know what? Put him in with Masterson, their family. Well, there you go. It's going to be interesting. I think the guy's a dirtbag. I really do. I think the guy's a dirtbag. But the theory, and you can tell me if you think it's crazy and that I'm wrong and all of that. But the theory is that for a system like ours to work, right, 1,000 guilty people need to walk free, but not one, right, innocent person needs ever to be convicted. And they're saying, right, that there is an actual percentage number of inmates in this country who are innocent, whatever that number is. Because every time I say it, somebody will say, I read something different. I don't care. I don't care. If it's 1%, how would that be? But it's over that. But if it's 1%, if there's one person tonight who's going to sleep in a cell for a crime they didn't do, we're doing a really bad job. We're doing a really bad job. And we really need to do better. So if there's a 1 in a million chance, then this evidence, I do believe that this dude is going to get found guilty, even if he gets another trial, right? And so let's get it done with, because all of the rumors and all of that, there's a whole group of people out there right now that are just 100% convinced that this dude didn't do it, right? There really is a very large group of people who believe that this guy didn't do it. I am not in that crew, but let's let them all have their day in court. Let's see all this evidence that they say exonerates him, and let a jury of It's 12, figure it out. I think that you kind of have to trust the system. I know that what I said is probably not popular, right? I know that what I said is probably not particularly popular, but I do think that you have to give people an opportunity on that. Real guns have no place on a movie set. Holy hell, is that a great comment? And that's really kind of an interesting question, right? How is there a gun on a set that could take a bullet in the chamber? My understanding is that those guns do not have a chamber, right? So there's no breach that a shell could go into, right? It is completely solid. I find it really odd that, this prop gun, now they come in like three different varieties, the ones that obviously the ones that shoot blanks, but everything, nothing about that thing's another one of those things that doesn't smell right at all. But no matter what happens, you've got people laying dead, that's awful. It really is absolutely awful. I couldn't answer this question, Deeming. I don't know how he would be treated in prison. I could tell you that in the feds, anybody that the serial killers tend to be, or famous killers tend to be kind of shoved off into their own place. The exception to that rule would be if the crimes were of a sexual nature. The fact that she was pregnant probably would not bring a whole lot of heat from the fellas. Just keeping it real. I don't think the fellas would care much. Sad but true. But no, that's murder is considered an honorable crime. I am not. Do you understand? This isn't me, right? This is not me. So, but I'm just telling you, it is considered the same kind of thing. Mo Love, Brandon Lee passed away from an actual blank, right? And the actual blank fired out a projectile that it wasn't supposed to, right? It was just kind of a freak accident where the little piece of whatever that holds the powder in on the blank came out like a frisbee. That's the story, right? Or wait, there's two of them. One of them was that, and the other was just the concuss or whatever. Wasn't there two Lees? I think Bruce Lee died one. Yeah, now I'm confused. But yes, there was an accident with a gun. But the difference is that what happened with Alec Baldwin is a live bullet was put into a live gun on the set of a movie, right? That's what happened. This is a legit gun, right? Loaded on a movie set with a legit bullet. How the hell a legit bullet would have been there, right? Or a gun that you could fire. Like, this just seems like, again, a lot of people had to screw up for this to go down. Yeah, by shutting down the unit, he could be taken out in a body bag and bypass cameras. You could take him into a hallway, right? You could take him into a hallway, but there is nowhere in a federal prison that is not on camera, right? Except the inside of the cell that the inmate lives in. The exception to that rule would be if you were on the watch, right? The unalive yourself watch, or if you were under observation. Those would be the exceptions. Both of those cells would have a camera filming the inside of the cell. No privacy at all if you're on the watch. So again, he wasn't in a cell that had that setup because he wasn't on the watch. They put him into a general population set. He was in the shoe, but they put him in with a cellmate and everything else. That's GP treatment. That's not what they're describing. It's just a lie, man. That, Jess, it'd be interesting to see what happens with her in the future. It will be very, very interesting. But do you notice that even with all of the names and everything that were coming out, wouldn't that have been a very interesting time for her to really insert herself into this and say whatever she wanted? Real quiet. Have you noticed? Real quiet. Does not want any part to do with any of this. Sent out a statement, but the statement basically said, "Yeah, I got absolutely no desire whatsoever to get involved in this." Not exactly how she worded it, but exactly what she was saying. Yep, worried about my life, my case, my appeal, not thinking about this or anything else. Right. Well, isn't that a great question? The charges were dropped. They got a sweetheart deal and agreeing to testify to something. Their charges were reduced and they were given probation with community service. The community service is already done and they are blending back into the world, right? Conveniently. They both fell asleep, right? Same time, both fell asleep. Wow. So they fell asleep. The cameras were off, right? All of this comedy of errors, all of this had to happen in order for this dude to be able to do what he supposedly did without anyone knowing about it, right? Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. And in all honesty, that the individuals should be charged, right, with something a heck of a lot worse than a dereliction of duty. I mean, without any disrespect to Michael Thomas or Papa Newell, these are the brain trust that you put on guarding the most high profile inmate in America, right? This is him. There's not a more high profile inmate in the BOP. Did you get a look at these people? I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just keeping it real. They don't look like they scored well on the last physical fitness exam, right? These people do not look like they're ready to run to the next fight that goes on. But there are people in there that do. I promise you, there are people in there that look like they just got back, right, from working out. There are a bunch of people in there. This just does not look like they picked top brass. I don't understand why he wasn't being guarded by somebody other than a regular staff member. Doesn't make any sense, people. By the way, along with the regular staff member, there should have been an inmate sitting a foot from his glass door, watching him around the clock. Every 4 hours, that inmate would leave and a new one would replace him, right? The Stephen Hawking's thing, I was shocked by that until, again, I heard that this was one of the things this guy does to try to legitimize his money and why he knows people, right? So he throws this big scientific discussion on his island and pays everybody to fly in. These people don't know him from Adam. At this point, he's just someone they think is a philanthropist. I don't think Stephen Hawkins had any idea what it tarnishes the guy's name, but I don't think there was anything weird about what he was doing there. That he was just there for some science. But it's salacious, and the way people tell it is designed to make all of us go, oh my God. Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Leonardo DiCaprio likes 19 to 22-year-old supermodels, right? He seems to date a lot of them, right? So everybody was like, oh yeah, he's just, and you instantly heard people online start to go, well, that one makes sense. Oh God, don't do that, right? Don't do that, man. That it's scary, right? But we get that mentality, don't we? I get guilty of it. We all get guilty of it. It's a feeding frenzy, right? It's a feeding frenzy. We want to know the people that let this happen. Right? We really want to know the people that let this happen. You know what is interesting though? Apparently, the chef from the island is cooperating. Don't know exactly what that means, but the chef from the island, who after leaving there went out to LA and did some work with a late night TV host. The two of them had worked on a project having to do with a restaurant or whatever together. And he, I guess, is saying that he's going to work with. When reading the papers, everybody involved, the women that they interviewed, all of them said he was a perfect gentleman at all times. In fact, one of the girls went far enough as to say when she would stand naked in front of him, that he always kept eye contact, never made her feel weird. That's exactly what was said. Now, remember how I said, if you see things going on there and you didn't come back and tell anybody about it, then in my book, there's something wrong. The fact that this dude saw women that could be underage walking around naked, I think that one beckons to do some screaming when you get back. That's my opinion. It's awful nice that that he kept eye contact, right? Real gentleman. But I think when you come back, right, you got to start yelling. Jenny, yeah, it's not a bad way to put it, I guess. Right? Not a bad way to put it, I guess. Yeah, you know what? Perfectly imperfect. Very interesting. Hawkins dead, right? He's dead. I'll tell you something else that's very interesting, right? Mark Epstien, the brother of Jeffrey Epstein, the one that hired Bodden to be there when the autopsy was conducted. He can't sue. How's that? He can't sue. And the reason he can't is because he took they told him because he had absolutely no financial interest with his brother in anything, that he doesn't have point to sue. He doesn't have any case, which to me just sounds absolutely unbelievable. If that was Johnny, I'd be losing my mind. I promise you. You know what? This is a possibility, right? This is a possibility. I won't rule that out, but come back and tell somebody that, man. Honestly, get me in witness relocation. I think I would probably, even with the threats, come back and tell somebody. Although, we don't know that guys didn't come back, tell people, and then just disappear, right? Or end up with a heart attack. Who knows? I think this thing really is deep. Love it. I like to believe that all of us would. I really like to believe that all of us would. But fear can be crippling. Yeah, I don't know that you can. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's completely legit. I get it, but I think the world needs to. Yeah, the brother apparently did not inherit any of that. Tracy, not sure if the brother got everything having to do with this man's finances is so convoluted, right? That people who do this for a living are not able to figure it out yet, right? There are people who are just going through this. Gambot, you are not the first person to say this. I've had this from multiple people talk about this when Matthew Broderick killed a couple of people in Ireland driving on the wrong side of the road. That is, we have had multiple of our crew members from Ireland tell that story, which is disturbing as hell. It really is. It just seems, again, to be, as long as you've been in some good movies, right, or you're really funny, or you got a great voice, right, we're going to let you live a completely different life. We're going to let you live a completely different life where you will not be accountable like other people. And that's just jacked up, man. The cult of personality is something that we really, really have an issue with in this country. Well, worldwide, but in this country, it's really bad. They said he was sober and gave him a pass since it was a true accident. I'd like to believe that it was, but who knows? Stop it. Is that the truth? Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing was in the car. This literally is why she got her nose done? That hurts. I have always been of the firm belief that her getting her nose done was one of the largest sins in the history of the 80s. Right? That was a bummer for me. I promise you. She was just so much different afterwards. Boy. Sometimes I get a good feeling. Yeah, I don't know about that either. I was told that I was always told that she had gone in and decided not the nose job reason. Yeah, it was absolutely devastating to career. I'll tell you that. After Dirty Dancing, she pulled it, and it was just yeah, she looked complete. She didn't look like the same person, and she was just so damn cute in Ferris Bueller and in Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in the corner, right? Hey, Flamin' Jackson, good to see you, man. Love you too. Yes, Tim Allen, I knew did time, and I knew what he did time for. And you know what? A lot of people give him a lot of crap because apparently he cut a deal and he testified against some people in his case or whatever. But you know what? I'm sorry. I can't. It's not a cool thing to do, but I can't really work up the hate for him. Thank you, Callahan. Just trying to change the subject matter. Well, that just about wraps us up then, people. Guess what I've got? I've got a cat in a basket. Love it. Don't worry. We're all friends here, right? Hey, I was trying to have fun here, right? Come on. See this? That right there? That is a cat in a basket. Eh? That was a cat in a basket. Is that what you were talking about, Deodrigor? That was a cat in a basket. All right, everybody. I will see you all on the next one. All right. I'm Captain Tommy. Spanky, come on out. Come on down. There he is. Is that a different hat than this morning?
No, I only have. Well, that's not true. No, it's the same hat.
I don't remember seeing anything yellow on it this morning. Perhaps you had that.
It was because the lighting was bad this morning. I had like my blinds shut and the sun wasn't out. But
Well,
no,
that
this is
could
my
be.
buddy's funk band, and they have an album release show tonight. That's the plans I had tonight that I forgot about.
What? I can't read the name on it. What is the name on it? Unless you shouldn't.
Super Bubble.
Super Bubble? No, it's a great name for a band. Very cool.
Yeah.
You never know, though, with a punk band, there's always, very handsome Viking. Yeah, that's my boy.
No, funk with an F.
Oh, there you go.
My buddy Brandon's like a young Les Claypool, but a little more regular, I guess. I don't know if you'd like it if I said that.
Funk.
Whatever.
No, I like funk. That's cool.
What's going on, everyone?
It's a bucket hat. Oh, you're funny. That reminds me of the bass player for Primus. Spanky has an uncle that was such a Primus freak when I was first dating your mom. He was you know which one I'm talking about. The taller of your uncles. Which is saying something because neither of them are 5'5". You got two uncles that can dunk basketballs. Tell me you don't love the name Duffster Rhymes.
What?
Duffster Rhymes.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, that's a pretty sweet
I dig reading it. There are names that I look out and I see, and it just kind of makes me happy. Snot Face is one of those. I look out and
whenever
I
I
see
see a
Face.
name. Whenever I see a name that makes me think, dang, I need a better name, I'm like, that's a pretty good name, you know?
I did hear that Snoop Dogg was arrested. I did hear that. Did you hear that?
I did not hear that.
Yeah, the word is that they're talking about him on the Tupac stuff, but I couldn't find it. I've heard
was
people
he arrested
say it.
or brought in for questioning?
I don't know. I mean,
the
only way I'm hearing this
was the Tupac murder, which is ridiculous. Like, come on, let it go. It's over.
Yeah,
it's been over.
Yes, he
it doesn't matter who killed him at this point. They're probably dead. You know.
Well, you know what? There are they really, really there's no statutes of limitations on murder, and there are people that get really, really gnarly.
What a waste of my money, my tax money. That's my opinion. Of all of our tax money, in my opinion. But what else isn't a waste of our tax money? So I guess I shouldn't complain.
Well, it could be fake news. Like I said, I've had a bunch of people reach out and ask me about it, but I haven't seen it anywhere else, right? I haven't seen it where I could document it or whatever. I don't know that I'd be shocked. I mean, that industry, right? There was a lot of really, really rugged stuff going on in that industry for a long time. Martha can give Snoop some tips. Absolutely, on putting on a good spread with nothing but 2 mackerels, 3 soups, and a bag of refried beans. Wonderful stuff. You wouldn't believe it.
Zelda, I am moving to Tucson, Arizona, February 1st.
There you go. Sometimes I get a good
You heard
feeling.
it here first. I would be blown away if Snoop and Martha did not sleep together.
They certainly put it on like they do, man. They certainly put it on like they do. If they're not doing it, they've got me convinced they are, and that's just as cool, right?
Right.
I mean, are you with me on that? I don't know that they actually have to be doing it. I think I'm really, yeah. Either way, I'm just really impressed by the entire concept.
Sometimes the imagination's better than reality, anyway.
Boy, you ain't lying. I can back that one up. All right. I think Jennifer sums it up with, oh, they so banged. Once again, this year, cat in a basket. Yeah, Martha's looking hot. I have seen Martha recently, actually. Martha took a really gnarly picture of herself that was
I know, right? There's a lot to pack in here.
yes.
Not really. There's not a lot in here. It just looks like there is. A lot of it's going to go in the trash.
It's an elliptical contusion. It's an optical contusion. Shambot's got jokes. Shambot's got jokes. All right. I will see you all at 5. All right. Calhouni, you game for that?
Yep.
Goodbye,
see y'all this
BTK.
evening.
I'm game. I shall return. What do you think? Tee, yeah. Snickering. Oh, I was talking about her body. I wasn't referring to her facelift. No, she looked fantastic. I thought she looked way younger than her years. Really fantastic. She took a selfie in her bathroom and screenshotted it out. It was incredible. Sherry, I hope you're awake too. If not, we're just going to sit here and wait for you to get here. So better get there, man. Better get there. All right, people. Now I really am done. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. All right, people. I'm Captain Tommy. Bye-bye.